Hello everyone, welcome to a BJC past paper review. Before you start this exam, please remember to write your school number, write your candidate number, your initials, and your surname. Today we're doing a health science paper. We're doing a paper 1, which is a multiple choice paper. And we're doing this from the year 2020. Now, before you start the exam, also please remember to read through the instructions carefully and also follow the directives given by the examiner. Now, let's jump into our first question. The first question reads that which body system allows us to respond to changes in our environment? And the changes in the environment, they are called stimuli. And so our nervous system will help us to respond to stimuli. And you should also know the stimuli and also the sense organ responsible for them. So for example, our eye responds to light, all right? Our ears responds to sound vibration. All right, let's jump into question number 2. It said, which characteristic of living things allow carbon dioxide, salt, and urea to be removed from our body? Now, to remove these substances, they are chemical waste, otherwise called metabolic waste, and so they are removed by the process of excretion. So point to note that excretion will remove metabolic waste from our bodies. Now question number 3, it said the diagram shows the 3 main body cavities. Which letter label the diaphragm? And before I go into the answer, let me quickly label this for you real quick. And so A is where you find the brain, and so this is the cranium, and so this is called a cranial cavity. Okay, so remember the brain is in the cranium, so this is called a cranial cavity. All right, so for B, this is the chest, and so the chest area or the chest cavity is called the thoracic cavity. So you may see this as the chest cavity or the thoracic cavity. And that's option B. Now option C, or the structure C, is the diaphragm, and that will be our answer. All right, and D is the abdominal cavity. So the abdominal cavity is D. Okay, so those are our structures. And so our answer here based on the question here is C, because that is the diaphragm. And the diaphragm separates the thoracic cavity from the abdominal cavity. Question number 4, it said which organs are located below the diaphragm? So we're looking at the organs that are found below the diaphragm. So by looking at this, the heart is above. So the lungs and heart is above. Kidney is below the diaphragm, but the heart is above. So that is not the correct answer there. The liver and the stomach, yes, they are both below the diaphragm. Again, the lungs is in the thoracic cavity, so that D could not be the answer, okay? Number 5. Question number 5 reads that what happens to a person's chest when the diaphragm contracts and relaxes? So if the diaphragm is contracting and relaxing, it therefore means that you're breathing, which means air is coming in and out of the lungs. Okay, so the diaphragm will move up and down to take air out of the lungs. Let me just delete this. All right, our answer here is option A. All right, great. Now moving on to our question number 6. For question number 6, it said, what is the name of the structure labeled X and what happens to it when it contracts? So again, point to note, this is the arm, and the muscle before, think about it, before, in front of, so it is a bicep. So X will be the bicep, and if the arm should move up, then we're going to think about this in this way. Let me write something here for you. So again, if this contract, which means get shorter, you're going to pull this up like that. So you're going to bend the arm, okay? Looking for bicep and the bending of the arm. Okay, so let's get into that. Bicep and the bending of the arm. So here is option A. Okay. If the bicep relaxes, that means the arm will be straightened. All right, so let's go to question number 7. It said, which two bones are attached to the rib cage in the human skeleton? And so the rib cage, between the rib cage in front, you have what they call the sternum, okay, which is also called the breastbone. And to the back of it, we have the vertebrae. So number 7 here will be C, sternum and vertebrae. So vertebrae, you otherwise call it the backbone. Sternum, you call it the breastbone. Question number 8. It says the diagram shows a rotation movement of the head. And the question asks which type of joint allows this movement. And so the joint that is below the head or in the neck is called the pivot joint. And so for this question, it's going to be D. Ball and socket will be like the hip. All right, the gliding joint, those will be in your fingers, and the hinge joint is your elbow and knees. All right, so number 9. For question number 9 is the normal temperature for the human body. And so asking you what is the normal temperature for the human body, and this is 98.6 degree Fahrenheit. And I want to show you something real quick to calculate this in degrees Celsius. What you can do, matter of fact, you need to know this formula. So to calculate degree Fahrenheit in the Celsius, it is whatever temperature in Fahrenheit. So I'm just put Fahrenheit right, the F. It should be have a degree, but it's going to be difficult. Let me just write that in. All right, instead of type it, let me write it for you properly. So here you'll have your degree Fahrenheit, whatever the temperature in degree Fahrenheit. Okay, whatever it is, minus 32. Okay, minus 32. And then you're going to multiply all of this by 5 over 9. Okay, going to multiply all of this by 5 over 9. All right, and so I'm going to convert this for you that we have here to get an example. So let me do this real quick. So the way to do this, now you'll say 98.6. So this will be converting, I'm converting 98.6 degree Fahrenheit into degrees Celsius. So you could know the normal body temperature in degrees Celsius as well. So we're going to say 98.6 minus 32. And all of that will multiply by 5 over 9. And so what we'll get here, 98.6 minus 32 will give you 66.6. Okay. And then you're going to now multiply that by 5 over 9. And 5 over 9 is 0.56. So 0.56. And so we get our answer in degrees Celsius. It'll be 37.3. So anyway, so 37 is fine. You can rent off the 37. So 37.3 degrees Celsius. Okay, let's put the degree Celsius in this. All right, so that would be a conversion. So this is an example how you could convert from degree Fahrenheit into degree Celsius. Okay, now let's jump to number 10. For question number 10, it says diagram shows a specialized human body cell. And this is the sperm cell. So it said, to which group does this cell belong? And so it's a sperm cell, so it is a gamete. So remember that gametes, now they are egg cells and sperm cells, okay? All right, just to make a note of that. So number 10 is B. Now question number 11, it said, in which organ do the ciliary muscle work to bring about movement? And ciliary muscle, they are found within the eye. Okay, ciliary muscle, they are found within the eyes. All right, and a matter of fact, just to make a note that ciliary muscle will affect the shape of the lens. Okay, and the ciliary muscle also work with the suspensory ligament. Okay, to change the shape of a lens when you're looking at near or far objects. Now, question number 12, it said, what do people need? Why do people need calcium in their diet? And for this, as I'm sure you know, that the doctor will tell you that you need a calcium, right? for healthy bones and teeth. Okay, so number 12 there is A. All right, so let's go to question number 13. And for question number 13, it said, to which group of substances does glucose belong? And glucose is a carbohydrate. It is a sugar. And I want to make a note right here that sugars end with OSE. Okay, so glucose is a carbohydrate and it is a sugar, and sugars end with OSE. So if you look at option A, we have adrenaline, and adrenaline is a hormone, as insulin, oxytocin, and estrogen. They're all hormones. Amylase, lipase, pepsin, maltase, they are enzymes. Okay, so let me just quickly make a note here for you. So the first option here, they are hormones. Okay. Option B, they're all enzymes, and enzymes end with ASE, just to make a note of that. Enzymes end with ASE, so they are enzymes. And now sucrose, fructose, maltose, lactose, sucrose. These are all sugars. Remember, sugars end with OSE, so glucose belongs to this group. And again, they're also carbohydrates. All right. Now, iodine, iron, potassium, and sodium, they are elements or minerals. Okay, so option D will be our elements or minerals. Okay, they can label it as two things: elements / minerals. Okay. All right, so just for you to know those. All right, so now jump on the question number 14. It said, which material covers the crown of the tooth or of a tooth? And this one here is the enamel. Okay, right. So the 14 there is C. All right, so let's jump on to question number 15. For question number 15, it's a diagram shows the 4 types of teeth found in the human jaw. And now we say that to which type do the wisdom teeth belong to? And the wisdom is one of the last set of teeth will come out, and so the wisdom will be on this group, which is called the molar. And so let me quickly label these teeth for you real quick. And so the first one here, which is A, this is incisor. Okay, so that's incisor. B will be the canine. And D and C will be the premolar. And easy way to know the premolar from the molar, you notice that the premolar will have 2 root, while the molar will have 3, and they are larger, in fact. So you have a greater surface area for the molar. So the molar is a larger surface area compared to the premolar, and also the root will appear to be 3, and for the premolar is only 2. All right, point to note again, one more thing for you to know about the teeth here is the number of each of these inside of an adult. And so we'll have 8 incisor, we'll only have 4 canine, 2 on either, up and lower, 2 at the bottom, 2 at the top. And we have a total of 8 premolar as well. And then we have 12 molar. And so if you check these numbers, add them all up, they equal to 32, okay? So a total of 32 will be in an adult. Okay, so 32 teeth. All right, great. Now let's jump on to question number 16. And for question number 16, it said, what deficiency disease causes a swollen, bleeding gums? And once you have disease of the gum, you want to go to scurvy. So scurvy is that disease. And scurvy is caused by the lack of vitamin C. Okay, so please make a note of that. It's caused by the lack of vitamin C. Now, question number 17. It's a diagram shows the human digestive system, which organ produces gastric juice and hydrochloric acid. And this is the stomach. The stomach will produce hydrochloric acid, all right, and gastric juice. All right, just to make a note for the labelings, you need to learn how to label these diagrams. So this will be esophagus. Remember, you could spell this with an O in front of it as well. Okay, so esophagus. Okay, remember, you can put the O in front of the E as well. All right, and B is the liver. And as we mentioned, that C is the stomach, and the stomach contains hydrochloric acid. And D is the small intestine. All right, so great. All right, now jump on to question number 18. It said, which two processes happen to a piece of bread in the mouth? And once the bread is in the mouth, you're going to chew it. And chewing is digestion. And to take the bread in the mouth, it is ingestion. So absorption does not take place in the mouth. Ingestion does not take place in the mouth. Absorption takes place in the small intestine, just to point it out. Egestion is at the anus when you remove or release the undigested food. Okay. Again, assimilation takes place in the tissues of the body or in the cells that when the absorbed nutrients become a part of the body. Absorption again takes place in small intestine. Digestion is the breaking down of food, and you break down food in the mouth by chewing, which is mechanical digestion, and you also ingest, which is taking the food in. So 18 is C. All right, 19. Now, 19 said James had surgery to remove his gallbladder. What type of food would the doctor advise him to limit or remove from his diet? Now, first, think about the gallbladder. All right, remember the gallbladder, it will store what? Bile, and bile will help to break down with substance, fat. So bile helps us to break down fat, and bile is stored in the gallbladder, so hence you will not be able to eat fat because you do not have the substance to break it down, okay? All right. Now let's go to question number 20, and we're halfway through. It said the diagram shows a simple plan of the human circulatory system. So we're looking at the circulatory system here, and so I want to pay close attention to it. It said which arrow shows the wrong direction of blood flow. So looking at the circulatory system, now I want to show you something here. Very important for you to know in terms of blood flow is that blood will enter into the atria, which are the upper chambers, each of them. One is called atrium, and blood will leave the ventricles, which are the lower chambers, okay? So we're looking for which one is wrong. So look at the top ones first. The top one, they are going in, which is correct because the atria, they receive blood. The ventricle is responsible to push blood out. So R is correct because it's going out, but Q is incorrect because it's going in. Remember, it must go what? Out. So let's look at what option points to Q for this one. All right, so let's go in it real quick. Q is option B. Option B is the incorrect direction of blood flow. All right, let's go to question number 21 now. And for question number 21, it said blood appears to be red in color to the naked eye, which two components cause it to be a bright red color. Now, look at option A. We have lymphocyte, and lymphocyte is a white blood cell that produces antibodies. Hemoglobin is that substance made up of iron in the blood, and yes, it will cause the blood to be red, but for the fact they have lymphocyte, that cannot be the correct answer. Platelets, they respond for blood clotting. Carbon dioxide, no. Carbon dioxide would make it become less red, in fact. And then option C says red blood cells and oxygen. Yes, oxygenated blood will appear to be bright red. Okay. All right. So white blood cells used to destroy bacteria or invading pathogens or microorganisms. Right. So white blood cells help us to fight against diseases. Now for question number 22, it said the average heartbeat rate. The average heartbeat rate is 70 beats per minute. Is how long would it take the heart to beat 12,600 times? And so to calculate this, what you're going to do, first and foremost, you're going to now divide the 12,600 times by 70 beats. And so let's say 12,600, okay, divided by 70, and that will give us 180. But notice 180 because this is in minutes, so this is 180 minutes, okay? But we want our answer in hour because all the options here, they are in hours. And so let's convert 180 minutes into hours. So what we're going to do is to divide 180 So divide 180 by 60. This we're converting it to hours now, minutes to hours. Divide by 60. And so this will give us 3. And this is 3 hours, okay? So our answer here will be option B. Okay. Now question number 23. And question number 23 reads that the diagram shows the human eye. It says which letter points to the pupil. And so let me just quickly label all of this. So C will be the eyelid. All right. D will be the sclera. And A is the pupil. So A will be your answer. Let me just highlight that. So A is the pupil. So that is our correct answer there. Okay, so A is a pupil. And I'm not sure if you've seen correctly, but I'm going to highlight exactly where it's pointed to. It is the central point. And B will be the iris, and the iris is a colored part of the eye, just to make mention of that. So the line that is pointed is pointing to the central located spot, okay, just to make it clear. All right, so that where the pupil is. All right, and also remember the pupil will change size based on dark and bright. So in the dark, the pupil is wider. That means it's dilate. And then in the bright, it will constrict, which means get smaller, okay? And the pupil is also controlled by the iris as well. All right, question number 24. It said, which line diagram correctly shows the path of light ray passing through the eyes? And so first and foremost, the first structure that you should always see or label in the eye is the cornea. So the cornea is the first structure. And then, so if you look at all the option, B starts with the cornea. And after the cornea, you have the aqueous humor. And then after the aqueous humor, you have the lens and then the vitreous humor. And then it goes into the retina. So option B for 24 will be our correct answer. Now let's move on to question number 25. And we are almost there. So for this part, it said that the diagram shows the human respiratory system. Question 25, 26 refer to the diagram. So we're going to answer 2 questions based on this diagram here. But since we're going to answer questions from this, let's quickly label them. All right. So first, we know this is a larynx, and the larynx is also called the voice box. Okay. The larynx, and this is the voice box, and we have our trachea. And one thing you need to know about the trachea is that the trachea contains rings of cartilage. And the purpose for rings of cartilage is to prevent the trachea from collapsing when you're swallowing food. And R will be a bronchus. Both of them are called bronchi. So this is the bronchus. And then these small round circles at the end of the bronchiole, they are called alveoli. All right, so great. Now, let's go to see what the question is now asking us to do. So question number 25, remember that question number 25 and 26 refer to the diagram. So in question number 25, so which label structure contains vocal cords, and that is the larynx, which is the voice box. And so the first letter here, which is P, so this is P, and so this is option A. Now 26, it said what process occurs in structure S. So let's go back to see what is structure S, and structure S here is the alveoli. And remember the alveoli is responsible for gaseous exchange. So it will be exchange of gases. And around the alveoli, you'll find a lot of blood capillaries that will take in oxygen and release carbon dioxide. Okay, so at that point, the blood will become oxygenated, okay, rich with oxygen. Now for question number 27, it said during which process does the epiglottis closes over the trachea? And this is definitely when you're swallowing food. The epiglottis will cover the trachea, so no food will get into the trachea and cause it to choke. All right, let's go to question number 28. And now in question number 28, they say the diagram shows structures found in the nervous system. What structures label X, Y, and Z? Okay, and so let's label this. Structure X, if you notice it, there's a cell body at the end, and so this will be a motor neuron. because motor neuron, the cell body, is at the end. Okay, just to make a note of that. Now, structure Y is between two neurons or two nerve cells, and that is called a synapse. So synapse is where two neuron meet or two nerve cell meet. So this is the synapse. Okay. All right. And so Z now will be a sensory neuron. Why sensory neuron? Because the cell body at the side. So please remember, side, sensory. So the cell body, which is this cell, the cell body is at the side of the neuron. So it is the sensory neuron. Side for sensory. So remember that. Okay, easy way to remember it. This is a sensory neuron. Okay, so the option here would contain this in this order will be option B. So motor neuron, a synapse, and a sensory neuron. Okay, all right, great. Now jump on to question number 29. And for question number 29, it reads that what term describes a person's state of complete physical, mental, social, and emotional well-being? And that means it's depending on health. So once these are good, that means you're healthy. So health depends on your physical, mental, social, and emotional well-being. So you need to take care of yourself physically, mentally, socially, and emotionally for you to be healthy. All right, so number 30 reads now, it said the diagram shows the structure of the human skin. And it said which structure produces an oily substance. And this will be here our oil gland or our subcutaneous gland. So this here will be Q, and the substance produced by that is called sebum. Okay, so sebum will be that structure here. We have our sweat duct. So S will be the sweat gland, and P will be the sweat duct. So sweat is produced here, but oil is produced by Q. Okay. All right. So our sebaceous gland. All right, and our sebaceous gland produce oil, and the oil that is produced is called sebum. Just make a note of that. So let's label this as Q. All right, now 31 is which is harmful to the human skin, and which one is harmful to human skin here is ultraviolet rays, because ultraviolet rays can possibly cause skin cancer. Okay. Melanin is good because melanin will protect us from the ultraviolet rays. All right. Perspiration is sweating, and sweating helps to cool the body, so that's a good thing if you're hot. Vitamin D will also help you to generate melanin as well. So that is a good thing to produce vitamin D. Now, question number 32 is that what happens in the urinary system if there is a blockage of the uterus? So if the uterus is blocked, right? Remember now what the purpose for the uterus. The uterus is responsible to take urine into the urinary bladder. So therefore, urine cannot pass to the urinary bladder, okay, or enter into the urinary bladder. So that is A. Now for question number 33, it reads that the diagram shows a fetus inside the womb of a woman. It says which structure contracts during labor? All right, so let's now quickly look at this real quick. So what is contracting is the muscles of the uterus, and so option D will be the correct answer. All right, so let me quickly label all of this for you. So A is the amniotic fluid, all right, or you can say the amniotic sac. So I'm looking at where C is pointing, so this is a fluid around here, so it's the amniotic fluid, all right, and it's in the amniotic sac. So the amniotic fluid. All right, let me go back. Amniotic fluid. Okay, so the amniotic fluid. And B here will be the placenta. And this is where the nutrients will pass from into the fetus and also receive the waste from the fetus as well. All right, and A here will be the umbilical cord. So A is the umbilical cord. Okay, so A is the umbilical cord, and D here is the uterus, and the uterus will contain is a muscular wall, And so during labor, the uterus will contract and bring about labor. All right, so number 34, it said if a sperm cell containing Y chromosome fertilizes an egg cell, which of these is most likely to be determined? And just to point out here that the Y chromosome and X chromosome determine gender or the sex of a person. So point to note right here is that if there's X and X chromosome, so if the cell contains X and X chromosome, then we know that this is a girl, okay, or a female, okay. If the cell contains X and Y, so if the cell contains X and Y, then we know this is a boy, okay. This is a boy or a male, okay. So it helps us to determine the gender or the sex of the newborn, okay. So the Y chromosome, for the fact that it mentioned Y chromosome, it therefore means it determines gender. And a matter of fact, the child that will be born, the gender of the child that will be born will be a male, because the fact that it contains a Y chromosome, it will be a male child or a male baby. Now, question number 35. And question number 35 now reads at which row in the table below gives the correct order of the stages of human reproduction. And so what is the first thing that will happen here? That an egg must be available. How the egg becomes available is by ovulation. So you must have ovulation first. Okay? So to have birth first will be totally wrong. I cannot born and then the other things happen. No. All right? So here is the first thing: the egg must be available by ovulation. Then the egg becomes fertilized with the sperm, and then it will be implanted into the uterine wall. And then after development, over that 40 weeks period, then you'll have birth. And so question number 35 is the correct answer. D is the correct answer for question number 35. Let's jump to question number 36. It's at which stage in a woman's life does the menstrual cycle cease and period stop? And this is when all her eggs are finished, and this is when she reaches a point called menopause. Okay, so menopause. Let's jump to question number 37, and we are almost there. Now, in question number 37, it said which list shows all examples of sexually transmitted diseases or infection. And so asthma is not sexually transmitted, bronchitis is not, emphysema is not. They all affect the lungs or the respiratory system, so they are respiratory diseases. Chickenpox, measles, and mumps, they are not STDs. All right, cholera, malaria, and typhoid, they are not STDs, but genital herpes, gonorrhea, and syphilis, they are. So option D here will be our correct answer. All right. Okay, great. Now, question number 38 is that in which structures would a person experience stiffness, spasm, and cramps? And so this will definitely be your muscle, okay? A muscle cramp, muscle spasm, or the stiffness of the muscles. All right, great. Now, 39. And for question number 39, it said, which two body organs are most likely to be damaged in an alcoholic? So if a person is alcoholic, drink a lot of alcohol, there are two things that are generally affected. So they are the two things that can be damaged. One, if a person becomes drunk, then the person will lose balance and coordination. And the part of the brain that is responsible for that is the medulla, is the cerebellum. So your cerebellum is what responsible for your balance and coordination. So definitely is affecting your cerebellum of your brain. And then now, what is also important is that your liver will try to get rid of the alcohol, because alcohol is toxic. Okay, it's a toxic substance. So here is the brain and the liver. And again, remember, the part of the brain that will be mostly affected is your cerebellum, that is responsible for your balance and coordination. All right, number 40, which is the last question. It said, which secondary sexual characteristic occurs in both females and males? Again, eggs is only in females, okay? Broadening of hips is for female. Deeper voice is for male. Broader shoulders will be for male. Muscle development is also for males. And so the skin become oily and pubic hair grows. This is for both. And just to make a point right here is that the oily skin is a reason why teenagers will get pimples, okay? Because that oil mixed with dirt and so on will clog the pores of the skin and may develop into pimples, okay? So we're at the end of it. And again, thank you for being here, and look out for more reviews for this year. See you soon.